Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I specifically want to talk about emotional parameterization in that we as Dragon Masters, as Dungeons and Dragons players, exhibit. Right, the emotional parameterization that we exhibit for for the player character, for what's happening in the D&D narrative, right? So we come to the table and we have this narrative unfolding, and I want to talk about emotional parameterization on two different axes: the personal emotional parameterization that we do and the auxiliary emotional parameterization. Let's jump into this. All right, so what are you talking about, Scott? Yeah, it's a good question. It's valid. Let's dive into this. Okay, so you you create a let's say you create a tiefling fighter, okay, and that is brought into Forgotten Realms, and you're a dragon master and you've created this tiefling fighter, okay. Your tiefling I'm sorry, excuse me, tiefling wizard. You create a tiefling wizard, and that tiefling wizard is brought into Forgotten Realms, and you go against an evil wizard, right? Who a necromancer, right? And they're raising dead, right? And you step forward, and you guys are down in the mines, and here's what happens: you're like, oh hey, evil necromancer, catch this fireball, and you deliver a full force fireball that's more than enough to kill this necromancer, right? But the necromancer dodges out of the way, and the treasure carrier that your 12th level team has hired 3 villages back, who's done a great job of literally carrying your treasure, right? And he packs the treasure onto these different horses, and you guys have a whole hoard of treasure that you're going to sell at Waterdeep, right? And you're going to make a ton of gold points, and then maybe you can create your own, wizard's tower, right? But the necromancer dodges out of the way, and you just burn to a crisp. You've killed an innocent man, right? Like, this treasure carrier that you guys hired for 3 gold a day is now dead because of your actions, right? So let's talk about the emotional parameterization of that, right? So how do you feel as an IRL, actual physical person? How do you feel about what just happened, right? You need to process that, right? And you're not in it. And here's the thing: in IRL, you're never going to have you're never going to be in a position where you burn someone to death accidentally. It's extremely unlikely. There's maybe a 1 in 1,000 chance where that circumstance is going to happen to you on EARO, on EARTH, right? But on Faerun, the odds of it are extremely high, right? That you're going to take someone's life that you didn't mean to, right? You're an adventurer. There's risk everywhere, right? So you have to process that, and you have to parameterize it. And then you have to think, did I respond correctly to the loss of life here, right? But then you also need to process, you need to parameterize the loss of life from that tiefling wizard, right? Are you lawful good? Are you chaotic? Are you neutral good? I'm sorry. Are you lawful good? Are you lawful neutral? Are you lawful evil because you have some weird DM who wants to run that kind of story, right? And you need to understand, and even beyond that, their emotion. And get this, your alignment doesn't even determine your emotions, right? You could have a character who's lawful good, but their emotional response to taking the life of that, treasure carrier, they might be excited about that. They might get joy from taking that life because the barman, the serving girl, the serving woman at the last tavern winked at him instead of your character. Who knows, right? Like, and the complexity of emotionally parameterizing your player character's emotional response to a death that shouldn't have happened is extremely challenging. And there's a lot there. You have to think about the narrative itself. You have to think about what would it, if this is The first time that this tiefling wizard has ever taken anyone's life, do they have great sorrow? Are they able to continue adventuring beyond the sorrow? And this is where we got it wrong for 50 years. Every table was like, of course my character just keeps adventuring. Long rest takes care of all the hit points. I don't need to think about the emotional state of my adventure. I don't need to consider if my adventure is emotionally prepared to continue to adventure. And that's what this second 50 is about, right? We are now no longer talking about intellectually processing the build. We're talking about intellectually processing the D&D narrative. We're talking about emotionally processing the D&D narrative. We're talking about emotionally processing spiritually processing the D&D narrative. And this is far beyond, this is light years beyond anything we ever did in the first 50 years. We just did not do this, right? But the reason why I'm saying we need to start going down this road is Gary's legacy. Gary's life is the dungeon, right? People went down into level 1 and go, oh, hey, everybody, there's some gold coins on the ground. Let's pick them up, right? And what was that? That was fun, right? From chopping some goblins in half. But I'm saying that Gary's life, right, was like 70 layers deep, right? And that on the 70th level of that dungeon, right? I would say 7 levels. Let's say 7 levels deep. On the 7th level of that dungeon, right, is an orb of dragonkind. Something, something that we can learn as people, right, that is so profound and so dramatically more than the people who do not have Dungeons and Dragons in their lives. And this is what I'm saying. I'm saying that the secular aspects of our lives are multiplied by 10 to 100 by Dungeons and Dragons. And that people without Dungeons and Dragons are living the most desiccated, useless lives possible. And never really understanding themselves at any deep level, right? Even to the point where it makes me think, is that who is going to help them? Who is going to come for them? Who is going to aid them? Who is the people who get to the point where they're helping these people who just are trapped in one identity? And again, for the first 50 years, no, the answer was no one. No one cared, right? Like they're like, all this game could do is help you cut a goblin in half. Nothing that happens here matters, right? And now that we understand, right, that Dungeons and Dragons is helping us understand our own intellectual efforts, our own emotional efforts, our own spiritual efforts, right, from a secular perspective, and can be a multiplier for these levers within our lives, it completely changes what's happening at the table and what Dungeons and Dragons actually means, right? And I used to apologize for having this unusual opinion, but like, we just connected to Lego. Lego is literally using their product to run social experiments, and not just like doing it in a dark lab. Like, it's well lit and they're putting it on their site. They're like, hey, here's Lego. We use it to run social experiments with humanity. They're not even pretending anymore. Like, it's just, of course, they're like, of course, the magnitude of what needs to occur with Lego is limitless, and we can understand the human spirit with Lego. I'm saying we could do the same thing with D&D, right? And emotional prioritization is a very big part of this. Thank you for letting me share this with you today. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.